What is a seemingly harmless parenting mistake that will majorly fuck up a child later in life? Severe punishments, like shaving the kid's head or destroying his toy shoppies. My neighbor, also one of my closest friends, went through this. He is doing fine, but it's fucked up. People are talking about how these parenting mistakes are obviously harmful, but in the eyes of the parents of the kid and their family in general, it's pretty normal and standard. Telling your child that they have to finish all of their food. If your child says they're full, respect that. When you insist your child eat their food even when they're full, you're teaching your child to ignore the body's cue to finish eating and, instead, not stop eating until everything is gone. This can cause problematic food behaviors that they may carry on through life in a number of ways. Firstly, it can cause the child to not be able to recognize when they're full or not anymore, a problem many people face, hence the rise of the intuitive eating movement to help people be able to recognize when they're full again, which can lead to overeating. Secondly, it can encourage an all-or-nothing mindset, which can also lead to overeating. As an example, someone who this lesson was emphasized to may not be able to stop after just taking a couple of Doritos from a family-sized bag like others. Once they've started, they'll feel like they'll have to finish the whole bag because that's the thinking they were trained to have as a child. As well as this, it causes your child to associate a feeling of guilt with not finishing their food and, possibly, food in general, which can further contribute to problematic eating behaviors.
Hey guys, much like you, I love reading people's stories on Ask Reddit. Unfortunately, there's a lot of weird middle school level, just thought experiment type hypotheticals like nice try Baskin Robbins. I don't find this compelling, so that's why I've made it my mission to trawl and crawl through Ask Reddit and find the very best content and put it in your ears. That's why I'm begging you, like and subscribe. If there's anything I can do to help you out, give you the kind of content that you crave to help you get through your workday, let me know in a comment. But please like and subscribe.
Sticking through a toxic fucking relationship for the kids. It doesn't help. Part ways, be good parents, spend quality time together with the kids, but don't stay together and fucking hate your lives under the guise of it being for the kids. We pick up on your shit. It's a terrible example to set. My dad loved shit like this. Some of his favorites. I was grounded to my room for an entire summer. Twice. 3 months with only my room and the bathroom and dinner with the family. He took my entire Magic the Gathering collection, which I bought with my own money, and told me I could have it back if I passed a class. After I passed the class, he revealed he incinerated them so that I wouldn't go snooping and take them back. Kicked me out of the house for not mowing the lawn properly. I had to live with a friend for weeks. Guess how much we talk now? Edit. A few more. This has dredged up from my memories. Threw my Game Boy out of a moving car because he found out I was playing Pokemon. Pokemon was verboten in our house. I borrowed a friend's copy. It was the only entertainment I brought on a road trip from Illinois to Colorado and back. Made me take a home drug test often and at random. I never drank or did drugs at all. Told me I could never ever go to my friend's house at night ever again because I was 17 minutes late getting home. Grounded me from my car for getting home late and wouldn't drive me to anything. I was in marching band, a play, and had a class that started before the bus came. Had to walk to and from school for all of those, not having them do chores. My parents pushed me to be academic, so doted on me hand and foot as a kid to make more room for study. When you're too young and stupid to know any better, you think it's a blessing. When I moved out to uni, I didn't really know how to clean, when to clean, what to clean with, how to wash clothes, how to get them dry, etc. The only thing I could do is cook and binge drink. That's no way to bring up a kid, and it's a steep learning curve doing all that stuff for the first time in your early 20s. It sounds like a super lame answer, but make sure every kid does their fair share of chores. My parents won't ever address anything specifically. They just say we did the best we could with what we had at the time, but they really didn't. But because they are giving that blanket answer that allows room for mistakes but not responsibility, we can't ever talk about it. And sometimes they just flat out lie and reinvent history from my childhood and teenage years to make themselves look better. Sometimes I feel like they really believe their own rewrites. I went to my waxer and asked her something like this. She said that a 6-year-old girl come in crying with her parents. They wanted to get her to wax her legs for not cleaning her room. She wouldn't do it. Forgot to mention, but the waxer refused to do it. I got laughed at and mocked a few times as a kid, and that shit hurts a lot. There was one time I was trying to help a friend at their birthday by taking their presents to them, but all the adults and my parents thought I was being selfish and wanted them for myself and joked and laughed at me and just ignored me explaining myself and carried on. I think that hurt my self-esteem a lot in the long run. I remember several occasions when my father would accuse me of doing something I shouldn't have, and a couple of times I was legitimately innocent, and I would say I didn't do it or some such thing. He'd counter with, "Are you calling me a liar?" And I was pretty much fucked after that. There was no way I was going to get out of whatever punishment was heading my way. Dad was always right, even when he wasn't. For me, it wasn't that they teased me about a boy. It was that they continued teasing me after I found out he only went out with me so I would work on a group project with him and then dumped me after it was done. I was 14 and fucking devastated. And all my parents did was ask repeatedly, in front of other family members, "Why did Nick dump you? You're so smart." Giggles.
I turned 36 this year, and I decided to focus on my physical fitness, so I bought a swim club membership. The only problem was, most of the time when I go swimming, I wind up getting an ear infection. So it turns out that normal earplugs, they kind of irritate your ear canal, they don't really work, they don't keep the water out, but there is an amazing kind of earplug. It's called Mack's Pillow Soft Silicone earplugs that, they feel great, they keep the water out 100%, they're reusable, and they don't irritate your ear canal at all, no issues. If you've ever had a severe ear infection, you don't want to experience that again. It can permanently damage your hearing if you're unlucky. So investing in these earplugs is definitely a good idea. Also, when my baby was crying later this year and I could not get to sleep, I used the same earplugs and they worked great. I was able to sleep right next to a crying baby. So be sure to click my affiliate link and purchase some of these Mack's earplugs today.
My parents relied on the school to teach me about sex and have never said a word about it. Luckily, I had excellent sex teachers who taught me everything. I'm not gonna lie, I kept anxiously waiting for the moment when they were finally gonna have the talk me, but it just never happened. Lol, shit, I'm a different Asian, and I can corroborate that my parents and that dude in the comment above's parents were using the same notes because I ended up locked up in a closet. And let me tell you, from the perspective of the child, that experience is very scary. It's quite terrifying, and on top of that, you as a kid are aware of your small size and helplessness before anyone bigger than you, basically everyone. So by forcing something, like being placed somewhere you can't escape from, triggers an instant panic response that I don't think grown-ups understand the magnitude of that response and its impact on the psyche. From the perspective of these parents, the child is merely upset by the punishment. That is where they have gone horribly wrong and show that they lack the capacity to empathize with the thoughts and feelings of a child. This thing is getting a bit more attention than I thought. I wanted to be a little more detailed into what happened because just calling it locked in the closet isn't really close to painting an accurate description. I had my hands and feet tied on a child-sized wicker chair and I was gagged and placed in an empty bedroom while my folks pretended to leave the apartment. Whatever shock value this disciplinary action meant to convey, all I got out of it was to not trust them anymore. The happy family facade seemed to be just that to me from then on, a facade and a sham set up for the benefit of the people watching us. Internally, I knew I would one day become an adult and I'd be able to be on my own away from this family, and I always waited for that phase in my life where I'd be free and independent. I won a scholarship for singing while I was in primary school, private lessons twice a week. One day my dad stopped taking me, saying he couldn't afford them anymore. At the time I didn't know the lessons were already paid for from the scholarship. My asshole father thought it was lame and the lessons were useless, telling them they are smart. I'm not saying to not praise them for a job well done, but reinforcing that a child is smart will teach them that they don't need to try as hard to learn. Education should be a constant challenge in the same way exercise should always be a challenge. If it's not difficult, you're not learning, discouraging them from asking questions. Yes, it can be annoying to keep hearing, "But why daddy mummy?" But I've met far too many adults who admit they stopped asking questions because as a kid their parents would shut them up or be like their he-she goes asking questions again. Inquisitive minds need that fostered. My father gave up telling me to clean my room, so he did it for me more than once. My mom saw how much I was struggling with math, so she did my math homework for me. Now as an adult I struggle with organization and keeping my home clean. I also avoid math as much as I possibly can. My mind just shuts down when I see simple math problems. I spent 3 days being berated by my father. Called pissant, liar, thief. This was over a cigarette and a tube that got stolen from his office. I did smoke at the time, but I did have a job and actually didn't need to steal smokes. Anyways, after 3 days or the Gestapo treatment, my brother admitted he took it. I didn't hear one word of apology from him. I resent him 25, saying I don't care who started it. I grew up with friends whose siblings would target the one with the bad temper, provoke them into a rage, then cry and play victim when they got slapped. In this case, it does matter who started it. A parent has to make it clear that violence isn't okay, but neither is provoking someone into said violence. It doesn't matter that said person never hit or kicked while their sibling did. They never would have gotten hurt in the first place if they didn't encourage the aggression to begin with. Children are clever and will find loopholes in their parents' rules. Parents need to be better and snuff out that kind of BS when it starts. If they don't, they'll raise a manipulator and a scapegoat. One will use them and one will resent them. It's a lose-lose, all because of a simple rule, or worse, rewarding with candy or sweets. Not only does it make behaviors that should be intrinsically rewarding behaviors extrinsically rewarded, it develops an unhealthy relationship with sugar, tying the idea of pleasure and value to sweetness. Once kids with that connection get old enough to buy their own sugar, they retain the connection and can simply reward themselves constantly, increasing the likelihood of developing disordered eating patterns. Changed references of obesity to disordered eating patterns as per this reply. Dude, I was 5 and I liked this teacher, like kids do, told my parents and they laughed and made jokes about it to the point where my aunts and cousins knew about it and they still bring it up sometimes up till now. And they wonder why I don't talk as much as I did when I was a kid.
I turned 36 this year and I decided to focus on my physical fitness, so I bought a swim club membership. The only problem was, most of the time when I go swimming, I wind up getting an ear infection. So it turns out that normal earplugs, they kind of irritate your ear canal, they don't really work, they don't keep the water out, but there is an amazing kind of earplug called Mack's Pillow Soft Silicone earplugs that, they feel great, they keep the water out 100%, they're reusable, and they don't irritate your ear canal at all, no issues. If you've ever had a severe ear infection, you don't want to experience that again. It can permanently damage your hearing if you're unlucky. So investing in these earplugs is definitely a good idea. Also, when my baby was crying later this year and I could not get to sleep, I used the same earplugs and they worked great. I was able to sleep right next to a crying baby. So be sure to click my affiliate link and purchase some of these Mack's earplugs today.
I still remember that feeling. My 3rd grade class won an award that for some reason was a comically large chocolate bar. For having read the most books in a specific time frame, I walked home with a hunk of chocolate the size of my fist. The fools, I would have read that much anyways. For me, my mom started when I was a kid and it was first her ranting about my father. Thing is, I had to live with him every other weekend and I knew how bad he was. But the most memorable time of my mother doing this was when I was just going into high school. She married her now ex-husband, had a kid with him, fell down the stairs and broke her back. When her marriage was beginning to fall apart, she would yell at me for hours about all the terrible things he did to her, saying he raped her, keeps her awake at night purposefully, super controlling, where he would come home after checking in at work before going to where his area of work was, worked as a utility service man, to check up on her. She would tell me over and over that she was trapped, yet she refused to do anything about it. Scariest time was when she punched a photo of us all hanging on the wall and I had to not only bandage her bleeding hand, but pick up the glass off the floor and clean it all up before anyone else got home. Luckily my baby bro was at preschool at the time. It's basically emotionally dumping on your kids, shit that they shouldn't be dealing with, and sometimes expecting them deal with your problems. I'm sort of glad that my mom isn't the only one who acts like this. She's actually working on that issue, since me and my siblings are older now and can call her out on it without many consequences. It just sucks because she only started working on it once I left for college. I wish she had told me sorry once when I was younger. Creating an environment where you tell your kid their feelings aren't valid just because they aren't the same as yours, or your kid processes their emotions differently than you. Angrily telling your kid they are too sensitive, dramatis theatrical, hormonally, is just going to mess your kid up and encourage them to bottle emotions up to avoid upsetting you, and is going to lead to major communication issues. Also, constantly pushing an intelligent or self-motivated child to work harder and harder and do better. You're setting your kid up to be a perfectionist, which can be incredibly damaging to his or her mental health in the long run. I found that when my parents teased me about stuff I was clearly uncomfortable with, it made me tell them less later in life. I have a good relationship with my parents, but I don't tell them lots about my life because it's easier if they don't know tease about it.
I turned 36 this year and I decided to focus on my physical fitness, so I bought a swim club membership. The only problem was, most of the time when I go swimming, I wind up getting an ear infection. So it turns out that normal earplugs, they kind of irritate your ear canal, they don't really work, they don't keep the water out, but there is an amazing kind of earplug called Mack's Pillow Soft Silicone earplugs that, They feel great. They keep the water out 100%. They're reusable, and they don't irritate your ear canal at all. No issues. If you've ever had a severe ear infection, you don't want to experience that again. It can permanently damage your hearing if you're unlucky. So investing in these earplugs is definitely a good idea. Also, when my baby was crying later this year and I could not get to sleep, I used the same earplugs and they worked great. I was able to sleep right next to a crying baby. So be sure to click my affiliate link and purchase some of these Mack's earplugs today.